The new Nigerian Tax Act 2025, a dissective synopsis of what you need to know. Dear friends, to comply effectively and efficiently with the new Nigerian Tax Act, you have to first of all clearly understand the Tax Act. And to do this, you have to take a dissective voyage into the minds of the crafters so that you can creatively figure out the thinking of the federal government of Nigeria. Toward this end, we have carried out a dissective synopsis of the entire four new tax acts and present the results here for the purpose of aiding your deeper and clearer understanding of the four new tax acts. Consequently, in this video, we will pilot you through the key thinking of the federal government of Nigeria in embarking on the holistic and comprehensive surgical operation of the Nigerian tax system, which resulted in the harmonized, unified, consolidated, modernized, simplified, globalized, digitalized, progressive, equitable, and compassionate set of tax acts, which we now have. In this video, though a dissective synopsis, you will learn a lot, including the golden rule of tax freedom, knowledge of the four new tax acts, the 30 overall objectives of the tax acts, statutory objectives of the tax acts, strategic roles of the tax acts, application of the tax acts, and structural stratification of the tax acts. In addition, you will learn the sectional highlights of the tax acts, some tips on how to get the best out of the structural stratification of the tax acts, list of the unexpanded 22 interdependent compasses of videos, and about Taxcorp and the principal consultant. So what do? Simple. Just follow us attentively to the end of this video. In addition, we'll be releasing more videos, and to get the videos hot and fresh, kindly like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and share to as many people as possible. Share to as many loved ones as possible. Also, we would like to hear from you on how these videos are assisting your understanding of the tax law and your compliance with it. In addition, should you have any matter or wish to make any comment, kindly drop such in the comment section or contact us through any of the other various contact channels. Thank you. So what are you going to learn in this video? In this video, you are going to learn a lot, and they include the golden rule of tax freedom. Yes, you will learn the golden rule of tax freedom, which is the bedrock of your relationship with tax. You're going to know the list of the four new Nigerian tax acts, the 30 overall objectives of the four new tax, elucidation of the 30 overall objectives of the four new tax acts, statutory objectives of the four new tax acts, strategic rules of the four new tax acts, application of the four new tax acts, structural stratification of the four new tax acts, key sectional highlights of the Nigerian Tax Act (NTA), key sectional highlights of the Nigerian Tax Administration Act (NTAA), some tips on how to get the best out of the structural stratification of the tax acts, list of the 22 interdependent compasses, about Taxcorp and the principal consultant. Here, friends, is the golden rule of tax freedom, which is the bedrock of your relationship with tax in Nigeria. Dear friend, can I ask you a question? Do you want to be free from tax wahala? No disturbance of your sleep by a taxman. No knocking at your door by a tax lady. No receipt of long queries by your business from a tax controller. No receipt of unsolicited reminders or threats by your company. No blocking of your bank accounts by the tax chairman. No debiting of your bank account at the directive of a tax authority. No barging into you or your business by law enforcement officers. No forceful entry into your business premises by tax officers and law enforcement officers. No threat of imprisonment by a law court. no selling of your business and or assets without a court order after the tax has become final and conclusive by the Nigerian Revenue Service. Dear friend, if your answer to the above compound question is a cap 2 years, then obey the golden rule of tax freedom and you ask, what is this golden rule of tax freedom? I will tell you, it is called the 3 C's. And what are the 3 C's? Comply, comply, and comply. So here is the list of the 4 new Nigerian Tax Acts. First is the Nigerian Tax Act NTA 2025. Second is the Nigerian Tax Administration Act NTAA 2025. And thirdly is the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act NRSEA 2025. And fourthly is the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act JRBEA 2025. Now, here are the 30 overall objectives of the new Nigerian Tax Act. In order to get a good grasp and perspective of the 4 new Nigerian Tax Act 2025, you have to get a good insight into the thinking of the federal government of Nigeria in embarking on the holistic and comprehensive reform of tax laws, the processes, the procedures, and practice in Nigeria. We present below the 6 parts of the 30 overall objectives to enable you gain a good understanding of the Tax Act. In part 1, there are 5 overall objectives. Just like in part 2, 5 overall objectives. In part 3, 5 overall objectives. Part 4, 5 overall objectives. Part 5, 5 overall objectives. And part 6, 5 overall objectives, making a total of 30 overall objectives. And here are the overall objectives. Part 1, the first objective of the new Nigerian Tax Act is to eliminate multiplicity of taxes, harmonize taxes, harmonize processes, unify taxes, and consolidate taxes. In part 2, the objectives are simplify procedures, modernize procedures, globalize procedures, commonize procedures, and digitalize procedures. In part 3, you have boost tax revenue, plug leakages, expand database, reduce costs, reduce time. In part 4, you have reduce burden, tax capacity, tax fruits, infuse compassion, promote equity. In part 5, you have promote transparency, promote accountability, promote investment, incentivize taxpayers, reset our society. In part 6, promote consistency, promote certainty, encourage participation, promote compliance, facilitate enforcement. Knowledge of this overall objective is very important because that will help you to evaluate the goodness of this new Nigerian Tax Act. So we'll explain more on these 30 overall objectives. The first is eliminate multiplicity. What does it mean? It simply means eliminate multiplicity of taxes in Nigeria into single digits. Currently, you have only 4 tax acts. Before, you would have had over 60 taxes. That is what the Presidential Committee had to reduce to 4 tax acts. Next is harmonize taxes. Remove conflicting differences in taxes for uniformity. There is need for the taxes to be uniform and not having conflicting differences. You have harmonize processes. Make tax processes in Nigeria uniform. You have unify taxes. Bring together Nigeria's numerous fragmented taxes. So many fragmented taxes. So the Presidential Committee had to unify them into 4 tax acts. Consolidate taxes. Bring together fragmented taxes into one strong unit. Next is simplify procedures. Make procedures easy and less complex for taxpayers. Modernize procedures. Remove outdated procedures to the present. Globalize procedures. Raise tax procedures to meet international standards. Commonize procedures. Bring scattered common tax procedures together. Merge common tax practices or procedures. Digitalize procedures. Automate manual and paper-based tax systems and procedures. Boost revenue. Significantly increase and upscale tax revenue. Plug leakages. Close leakages of tax revenue for government. Expand database. Widen and deepen taxpayer database. Reduce costs. Reduce costs of administering and collecting taxes. Reduce time. Reduce time spent by taxpayers on tax matters. Reduce burden. Reduce tax burden on Nigerians and other taxpayers. Tax capacity. Tax capacity. Tax ability to pay. Tax the rich more and not the poor. Tax fruits. Tax products of capital. Tax fruits are not capital and not investment. Infuse compassion. Infuse compassion. Be nice to taxpayers. Promote taxpayers' rights. Promote equity. Promote fairness, justice, and impartiality in taxation. Promote transparency. Conduct tax matters in open, honest, and clear ways. Promote accountability. Conduct tax matters with obligation of stewardship, with obligation to report back to Nigerians. Promote investments. Impose and administer taxes to promote investments. Incentivize taxpayers. Attract and excite taxpayers by providing incentives. Reset our society, reset the Nigerian society and its economy with good taxes. Promote consistency. Replace inconsistency and confusion in taxation with consistency. Promote certainty. Infuse predictability and unambiguity in taxation. Encourage participation. Encourage active participation in tax by taxpayers and other stakeholders. Promote compliance. Promote civic, voluntary, and timely tax compliance. Facilitate enforcement. Make it easy and expedient to enforce tax laws by tax authority. Now, here are the statutory objectives of the four new Nigerian tax as clearly and expressly stipulated in the Tax Act. First is the Nigerian Tax Act. The statutory objective here is to provide a unified fiscal legislation governing taxation in Nigeria. And for Nigerian Tax Administration Act, the statutory objective is to provide uniform procedures for a consistent and efficient administration of tax laws in order to facilitate taxpayer compliance and optimize tax revenue. The third act, the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act 2025, to provide a legal, institutional, and regulatory framework for the administration of taxes and revenue accruable to the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The fourth act is the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act 2025. The statutory objective is to provide for a legal and institutional framework for the harmonization and coordination of revenue administration in Nigeria. Strategic roles of the four new Nigerian Tax Acts. Here are the strategic roles of the four new Nigerian Tax that you need to know. First is Nigerian Tax Act 2025. It details basis of chargeability and taxability of incomes, gains, and supplies, and transactions and reliefs and incentives, and manner of computing various taxes. I repeat, it details basis of chargeability and taxability of incomes, gains, supplies, and transactions, reliefs and incentives, and manner of computing various taxes. The Nigerian Tax Administration Act, the strategic role is it provides procedures for registering, filing returns, assessing tax returns, and enforcing tax payment, including offenses and penalties. And the strategic role of the Nigerian Revenue Service Establishment Act is it rebrands FRS into Nigerian Revenue Service and establishes Nigerian Revenue Service as the sole tax authority for assessing, collecting, and accounting for taxes on incorporated entities. And the last one, the Joint Revenue Board, the strategic role is that it rebrands the Joint Tax Board into Joint Revenue Board and establishes the Joint Revenue Board as a mediator between tax authorities and with taxpayers and keeper of database of tax identification numbers. Now, the application of the new Nigerian Tax Act to where, to what scope, to what horizon do they apply? We'll show you. The first is Nigerian Tax Act. As per the Act itself, it says the Nigerian Tax Act applies throughout Nigeria to any person required to comply with any provision of the tax laws. Similarly, the Nigerian Tax Administration Act says that it applies throughout Nigeria to any person required to comply with any provision of the tax laws. While the Nigerian Revenue Service stipulates in the Act that it applies throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Joint Revenue Board stipulates that it applies throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, the structural stratification of the four new Nigerian Tax Act. You have to know how these tax acts are structured, so it will be easier for you to understand. So you have to know how many chapters, how many sections, and how many pages are they structured into. So the first is Nigerian Tax Act. The Nigerian Tax Act is structured into 9 chapters. 9. It's structured into 203 sections and 119 pages. Similarly, Nigerian Tax Administration Act is structured into 148 sections and 83 pages. It does not have chapters. The Nigerian Revenue Service is structured into 6 parts, 42 sections, and 30 pages. It doesn't have chapters, neither does it have sections. The Joint Revenue Board is structured into 7 parts, 61 sections, and 35 pages. So you have them here: 119 pages, 83 pages, 30 pages, and 35 pages. That is what they are structured into. So in total, you can be looking at a total of 267 pages for the entire four new Nigerian Tax Acts. Now, key sectional highlights of Nigerian Tax Act. So let's look at we have looked at the structure. So let's look closely again into the structure and what are the highlights of the structure. Like we said, the Nigerian Tax Act is structured into 9 chapters. So what does these 9 chapters contain? So the first one is chapter 1. Objective, the subject is objective and application. The key highlight is that it contains the objectives and application of the Nigerian Tax Act. Chapter 2 deals with taxation of income or persons. It specifies incomes, gains, and persons chargeable to tax in Nigeria. Stipulates how to tax the incomes and gains of resident and non-resident persons in Nigeria, including incorporated entities such as limited liability companies, public limited liability companies, unincorporated entities such as enterprises, partnerships, self-employed individuals such as businessmen, businesswomen, sole traders, entrepreneurs, and employees. Chapter 3 deals with taxation of income from petroleum operations, how to tax income earned from petroleum operations. And chapter 4 deals with relief for double taxation, how to reduce tax by deducting taxes paid in other countries. And chapter 5 deals with imposition of stamp duties, how to pay stamp duties on instruments that are subject to stamp duties, and freedom from instruments that are not subject to stamp duties. Chapter 6 deals with value added tax, how to calculate and pay value added tax on vatable goods and services, VAT incentives, and freedom from non-vatable goods and services. That is what chapter 6 deals with. Chapter 7 deals with surcharge, how to pay the 5% surcharge on fossil fuel products, though currently suspended. And chapter 8 deals with tax incentives, how to reduce tax by utilizing the various tax incentives in the Tax Act together with their various obligations. Remember our 110 tax incentives which we identified in the Tax Act. You can go to that video and learn more. So chapter 9 deals with general provisions. And general provisions are other matters including interpretations and definitions of certain matters of the Tax Act. Key sectional highlights of Nigerian Tax Administration Act, NTA 2025. So sections 1 to 3 deals with objective, application, and jurisdiction of the Tax Act. It deals with objectives, application, and jurisdiction of NTAA, specify that NRS, that's Nigerian Revenue Service for federal taxes, while State Internal Revenue Service, that's SIRS, and FCTRS are for state taxes. Can I repeat this for you to clearly understand? The Nigerian Tax Administration Act specified that Nigerian Revenue Service is for federal taxes, while State Internal Revenue Service and FCTRS are for state taxes. Sections 4 to 33 deals with registration and returns. Who is obligated to register and file returns for tax in Nigeria? How, where, and when to register and file returns for tax in Nigeria, including consequences and sanctions for failure to register or file returns for tax. That is what this band of sections deal with. This band, the next one is 34 to 69 sections. They deal with assessment, compliance, and payment and enforcement. How, where, and when to assess, comply, pay, and enforce tax in Nigeria, including consequences and sanctions for failure to be assessed or comply or pay tax. The next band is 70 to 99 sections. It deals with general provisions, how to obtain tax clearance certificate, and other matters, amongst others. The next band, which is 100 to 127 sections, deals with offenses and penalties of general application. Offenses and penalties of general application, including offenses and penalties for incorporated entities, offenses and penalties for unincorporated entities, offenses and penalties for individuals and non-petroleum operations, but not for petroleum operations. Sections 128 to 135 deals with offenses and penalties for petroleum operations. It deals with offenses and penalties for persons engaged in petroleum operations. Sections 136 to 137 deals with offenses and penalties for surcharge, offenses and penalties for the 5% surcharge on fossil fuel products. Then sections 138 to 148 deals with miscellaneous provisions. Other matters including interpretations and definitions of certain matters of the Tax Act. Some tips on how to get the best out of the structural stratification of the 4 new Nigerian Tax Act 2025. The crafters of the Act, in order to modernize, harmonize, and globalize the Tax Act, repealed so many outdated, moribund, antiquated, confusing, conflicting, overlapping, and irrelevant tax acts. Similarly, to unify and consolidate the tax acts, they also merged so many tax acts. In addition, to simplify and commonize various tax acts, they merged so many chapters, parts, and sections of old tax acts. However, in doing so, in some instances, in some cases, they oversimplified, they overconsolidated, and they over-separated the chapters, the parts, and sections of the new Nigerian Tax Act, so that to comprehensively deal with a tax subject, say computation of a company's income tax or tax incentives, for instance, you may have to go through the entire Tax Act to be able to get all that are related to that particular tax subject. But not to worry. The good news is here that Taxcorp have addressed this shortcoming by restructuring the entire Tax Act into compasses such that every Taxcorp video, say Taxcorp video on tax incentives, is comprehensive of that subject. For instance, if you are dealing with tax incentive, if you watch Taxcorp video, everything that you need to know about tax incentive is in that particular video. Everything. We have combed the entire four tax acts and brought together everything that you have to know about tax incentives. Similarly, with other videos of Taxcorp. Just go through the YouTube channel and other social media channels on Taxcorp and you get all that you want. Here is the list of the 22 interdependent compasses. Like we always say, go through them, they relate to different tax subjects. And if you need anyone, all you need to do is to go to the video and listen to the video. Watch the video and listen to the video. Also, should you desire anyone that is not here, please contact us and we will deal with that tax subject for your interest immediately. About Taxcorp and the principal consultant. Taxcorp is a Nigerian tax consultancy firm which specializes in tax matters. Prince Chidi, FCA, FCTI, MBA, is a principal consultant. Prince Chidi is a licensed fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, and also a licensed fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, CITM. Taxcorp and Prince Chidi have provided tax services to numerous individuals and corporate bodies in both the public and private sectors, locally and internationally, since 1990, over 3 decades. The beneficiaries include the Nigerian Revenue Service, formerly the Federal Revenue Service, the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RAMFAC, many state internal revenue services such as Lagos State, Abia State, Kano, and so many. Federal Capital Territory Internal Revenue Service, FCTIRS, and many private companies and individuals. So, if you want more on Taxcorp dissection of the Nigerian Tax Act and its educational and enlightenment projects, please contact us through any of our contact videos and you will feel good. Thank you.